Hello, everyone. We are so excited to have you here with us. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Dr. Carla McCullough, and this is the College Reunion HBCU Alumni Interview Series. And I am so excited to have my AUC sister here with me today. I'll allow her to introduce herself.
Well, good morning, everyone. Good morning, Carla. Thank you. My name is Rhonda Shorter, and I am a alumni of Clark Atlanta University, so AUC,
Yeah.
in the house. And I graduated in 1998. I had to think about that for a minute. I was there originally from Pasadena, California, and attended Clark Atlanta University and Georgia Tech in the dual degree engineering program. So my major at Clark was mathematics, and then I did mechanical engineering at Georgia Tech. So it
Ooh.
was 3 years at Clark on Clark's campus, 2 years on Georgia Tech's campus.
That is amazing and fascinating. I can't wait to dig into how you landed there. So give us even more background. So you're from Pasadena, California. So how did you land in Atlanta? And then tell us about your high school background too. So what stood out to you in high school, maybe your favorite classes that allowed you to transition to this phenomenal major?
Sure. So I attended Mayfield Senior School, which is a predominantly white Catholic all girls school. And so that was a major factor in me wanting to get closer to my people and, and touching some roots. And so um, I loved math all through high school and science. And so along the way, people would always tell me, oh, you should go into engineering. You like math and science, you should do engineering. I was like, all right, that sounds good. And so that's kind of how I navigated to the major of math and engineering. And when I found out that Clark had both through the dual degree program, I was sold. So that's really how I came to be in Atlanta through the dual degree program. But it was actually because I had a really strong, tight knit friend group in high school. And so it was 5 girls. It was 5 little Black girls in, in a all white school. And our junior year, one of my friend's mom took us on a college tour. And so we did Northern California schools, and then a little while later, a couple months later, we did the South and East Coast. Wait, no, we didn't make it up to the East Coast actually, but we visited Tuskegee, where my friend actually ended up attending because her major was veterinarian, so that was perfect for her. And then we went to Atlanta and visited Clark and Spelman. Uh, and so I applied to both, didn't get into Spelman, but I got into Clark and I was like, that's fine. Either one of them they both had the dual degree program. So as long as I was in the AU Center,
Mm-hmm.
it was all good to me. Plus, I had just done the all girls school, so I didn't feel like I was missing anything. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I had already been empowered as a young woman through the all girl experience,
Mm-hmm.
and so I was just fine with attending.
Mm-hmm. That's so fascinating. You and I have some similarities. I also went to an all-girls school in Chicago, very similar, majority white. One of the reasons that I wanted to attend Spelman. And I think people miss the importance of single gender education. For women in particular, it really does empower you in such a way where you go out in the world, especially at the high school settings, you go out in the world and you're like just ready to conquer it. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I have a question because okay, so I pulled this shirt out, my Operation Olive Bread shirt, like literally the shirt from fall 1998 when I was a freshman. So let's just talk a bit off the questions about the AU Center and
Mhm.
what is phenomenal about it. So from your experience, kind of, yeah, what did it mean to be not just a student of Clark Atlanta, but a student in the AU Center, particularly during that time period?
Yeah, so for those that don't know, the 90s in Atlanta was absolutely a high point.
Mhm.
Um, they had doubled, maybe even tripled uh, admissions during that time. Atlanta kind of was really a hot place to be, which is probably how it got its name, Hotlanta.
Uh,
Um, well, I'm sure there's several degrees of Hotlanderness.
right. Mhm.
And so it was really where people were going. Obviously, that's where Freaknik got its start and, its legacy in Atlanta. Um, and so being there in the Black Mecca was just was a real pull. And so there was a good group of folks from California, in Atlanta during that time. I have several friends that we all kind of merged into the AU Center. The AU Center, for those that don't know, is the Atlanta University Center. And so it consisted of Morris Brown College, Clark Atlanta University, Spelman, and Morehouse. And so I think just being there with a group of, like-minded people, young people who were really excited about education and excited about the future and, making a change and really supporting our community yeah, the energy was high. It was great. It
Yeah,
was great.
yeah. I would do it all over again, twice. I would do
Yeah,
it.
absolutely.
So let's talk about school itself. So tell me, what were the learnings at school from your majors? And you had, two different experiences. And how did what you learned, impact your career path? So basically, what do you do now? And how did what you're doing now, how did that kind of transition happen from college?
So it's very interesting. Obviously, as a math major, you're taking upper level math courses. But freshman year, my favorite class was, uh, I don't remember the name of it, but something along the lines of Black history. And
Mm,
so
at ADW.
being, yeah, being from directly coming from an all white experience where, I'm the minority and, they might barely, probably not back then celebrating, Black History Month. So it wasn't something that was in the institution. Obviously, from home, I got it. From community, I was, surrounded, but not in the education system. And so that was my absolute favorite class. The teacher was my favorite teacher. She was just real, real cool.
Mhm.
She probably looked like who I am now, you know what I mean? Like with the wood earrings and always had some sort of paraphernalia on. Um, and I believe she had a short haircut. That's funny. I had never actually thought about this at all until just this moment. But um, she was just super cool and just really helped us to understand our uh, like who we are, but pre-slavery. You know what I mean? So it
Yes.
wasn't just our roots or our we come from enslaved people. Nah, yeah, that was just a moment in
Inclusion.
time. It was
Mhm.
just a moment in time, and so that was a really critical turning point in how I began to see the world. And I believe that was really key to how I approach things from that point forward.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, the math was cool. Statistics was the only class that I didn't get an A in.
Mhm.
I was excited to just be done with the class.
Mhm. Mhm.
You know what that means? D is for done. So but so post graduation, of course, during graduation, everyone wants to know what are you going to do with your
Mhm.
math degree. Are you going to be a teacher? I had no desire to be a teacher ever. And so, and then post engineering graduation, everyone's like, are you going to go work for, the big names? And so I did a small stint in DC after graduation. I worked, uh, that was my first, actually, it was my second engineering job officially out of college. I
Mhm.
was really grateful. I was able to work in the engineering industry through internships every
Mhm.
summer. And so
Mhm.
that was really important for my decision making as far as what I wanted to do post graduation. And so I did realize then that traditional engineering wasn't for me. The cubicles, the two
Mhm.
monitors stuck behind a desk just wasn't how I was cut. And
Mhm.
so I was very grateful for those experiences. So I knew what it wasn't going to take me 10 years to know what I didn't want to do.
Right. Mhm.
And so I did DC, worked for the patent office because they were hiring engineers
Mhm.
to figure out the mechanicals, the mechanics of certain patents, right? Um, but it still ended up feeling like a glorified paper pushing job in which I was, in a desk. Um, had my own office. I
Mhm.
shared an office, but with another person whose name was Rhonda. That was
Oh.
actually fun. uh, but I just realized that again that wasn't for me, and so I came back home, and then I worked for the airline so that I could travel, and I did that for a couple of years, and um, almost immediately came back. A couple of years later, got married, had my first child, and from there I started tutoring my friends' children
Mhm.
in math.
Mhm.
And so that actually started my kind of my path into education. So I became a tutor, and then really delved into tutoring, um, mostly because I was a stay-at-home mom. You
Mhm.
know, I have or we have 5 children,
Mhm.
and they're all 2 years apart, and so it was like,
Yeah.
back to back. We were also entrepreneurs. My husband and I, we did some real estate flipping and things like that. Um, and so entrepreneurial endeavors were always um, at the kind of at the helm of
Mhm.
how I thought.
Mhm.
And so I tutored, and then as I began to tutor, I realized students needed more than just the subject.
Right.
A lot of them needed healing when it came to math.
Right.
And I would hear the same thing over and over and over. Around the fifth and sixth grade, students were really becoming disconnected. They were finding it more difficult to catch uh, concepts. And so they were really just kind of tuning out around that time. And then they struggle, ever since. And so I really started helping students through the process of, let's kind of take a trip down memory lane and see where we could kind of plug some holes and try
Right.
to build some bridges,
Right.
because math is a building subject. So,
It is.
and as you know, in any type of building, you have to have a very strong foundation. If
Mhm. Yep.
the higher you want to build, the stronger your foundation. And so, with with students who were struggling in math in high school, um, it was very apparent that their foundations were really rocky.
Mhm.
Um, and then from there, so I really was an academic coach, and I really was able to see a common thread
Mhm.
throughout our system, or throughout our city and education system, and it was very disappointing to see. And so when my children started at Rosebud Academy, Pasadena Rosebud Academy, which is an all black, predominantly black charter school, the only one of its kind in Altadena. um, I started, helping the director, Sean Brown, and it was more like, you need help around here. Let me help you out. And so I started off as the PE coach or the PE teacher. And um, then got pregnant with my last and final child. And so I went out on maternity leave and then came back as administrative assistant in the office, and then just kind of grew into program coordinator because I kept kind of taking on more roles and more responsibilities, and connecting with people in the community is really my thing. And
Mhm.
so it just kind of made sense but because of my technical background,
Mhm.
I had a particular viewpoint, and then of course I was able to support the school through my math skills and different, helping to bring different programming in, as well as making sure that um, the things that I remember from tutoring, I really support the teachers,
Mhm.
in,
Mhm.
different way, strategies on how to make sure that we're filling in those gaps, when students are coming to us and struggling. I'm like, listen, everybody's got to memorize fractions
Right,
just
right,
off
right.
the cuff. Like, it just,
Mhm.
there's just no getting around it. Fractions have to be memorized from a very young age. And because it's really important. Once you master fractions,
Mhm.
nothing else seems to be such a big challenge,
Right, right.
right? Like, you
Mhm.
you're like, oh, if I can do this, then I can do this and I can do this. It's all really connected. But again, that strong foundation is
Mhm.
critical and crucial. So currently, I am the program coordinator at Pasadena Rosebud Academy, as
Mhm.
well as the IT um, person. And
Mhm.
so
Mhm.
and again, it's because of my technical background, and it's just what engineering taught me, which was problem solving and looking at everything through a lens of, well, if you look at it long enough, if you get enough eyes on it,
Right,
there's definitely a solution to everything.
right.
Um, and so it's really although engineering wasn't for me in the sense of direct path or
Mhm.
a direct career,
Mhm.
it's definitely supported me. And people ask sometimes, what did you do with I use engineering every day
Every day.
because it's
Mhm.
literally just, it's a way of thinking and it's a way of problem solving. And so it's, it's, it was definitely the best decision,
Mhm.
going that route. So,
Mhm. I
yeah,
thank you so much. I appreciate so much of what you said because what I heard was all the connections that your degree allow you to make in various industries. So I just want to flag, particularly for the high school students out there, how important math is. I want to flag for the elementary school students, parents, and teachers, how important the foundations of math are, right? And then
mhm,
also even just this notion of engineering. I think it's super important to have engineering, not just in college, but also in high school classes.
absolutely.
Students should
Absolutely.
begin to learn to think. It's that critical thinking that is so important. So just thank you for just flagging all of that. Thanks. So now let's take it back to college for a second. What was
Sure.
the best part of your college experience? And you
That
can
is a
only
very
pick
good
one.
question. What'd you
You
say?
can only pick one. I know there's so many. I know I have like 10 or 12.
Um, I think it was so being from, uh, so I am born and raised Pasadena, but
Mhm.
my parents are from Philly. So, when your parents are from a different place, you're raised like
Mm-hmm.
that kind of place. So, plus we visited, Philly several times in my lifetime. So, um, I hadn't had much connection to the South.
Mhm.
And I think being at CAU and in the AUC just gave me that connection that I needed to really support how I flow. And so I think in general, it was the experience of learning how to love my
Mm.
people in a different way and having that exposure to a different part of the nation and how the South does things because it's very different down there. And it was quite a culture shock
Mhm.
coming from, Pasadena and a PWI. So um, I think the best part of the college experience was being in Atlanta at that time in the AUC. I think it was just all of it. The
Yeah.
whole experience was like inclusive.
Yeah. I hear you. I hear you on that. So if we're thinking about advice, what advice would you give to young students, particularly thinking about young people in high school, about furthering their education?
So I really believe education is the key to all things, all things in growth, right? So like if you want to grow, you have to um, pursue higher education. And I'm using the word higher education because I don't want to pigeonhole anyone into thinking that that's only a particular type of college. So it's not just, so it's all of the experience of higher education. So whether it be a 4 year, whether it be a 2 year, whether it be a trade, education in and of itself is a must. Like you cannot have a thriving life
Right.
without pursuing education and pursuing knowledge and pursuing learning. Like you just have to be a lifelong learner, and
Mhm.
that's the blanket foundational. Like I could put a period right there and kind of end it. But I just want people to understand, the young people to understand that um, you you really need to be um, inquisitive.
Mhm.
And so being inquisitive usually leads you into furthering your education.
Mhm.
And so I don't want them to be, um, what is the word? Comfortable
Mhm.
and complacent
Mhm.
and just status quo.
Right.
So I would really admonish anyone, right? Like as long as you're living and breathing, you should be learning. And
Mhm.
it could be, whatever it is, however, whatever the thing is that you're interested in, dive deep into that, learn that, get the history on that, find people that are doing that, get mentors. Like education is critical to thriving life. And so I would just say um, figure out your thing, right? Because I get it. The going directly from high school to a 4 year it is not necessarily comfortable for everyone, and so you got to figure out your strengths. So if it's you know finding a really good community college and kind of finding or testing out certain classes, that's the place to do it. And then when you really find your thing and you get in, you find that vein that you can kind of really flow in, go full force and
Yeah.
don't stop. And you don't have to ask for permission.
No.
Like figure out the thing that you like to do and do that.
Yes, yes. We're gonna put that across the screen. Figure out the thing you like to do and do that. I love it.
And
It's beautiful. So all right, our last question. In what ways are you currently giving back to your HBCU?
so although I am not um well I will be. So, um, being a financial donor, so that was actually one of my goals this year is to start. giving financially, monthly, supporting Clark Atlanta University. Any chance I get, I support and promote HBCU. So I wear my earrings with pride, and when people ask me where do I, where I went, I let them know. I always having some sort of paraphernalia on, you know, whether I have a Spelman shirt, my kids have Morehouse shirts, or my boys have Morehouse shirts. My daughters will always rock my Clark Atlanta shirts, because I still have my college gear, just like your shirt.
Yeah, me
Yeah.
too. Yep, more than 20 years old. Mhm.
Uh-huh. So always supporting anytime I can, I overhear a conversation about it, I definitely support and acknowledge the benefits
Mhm.
of going HBCU.
Mhm.
Um, and um, one of my daughters is currently attending an HBCU. And so, yeah, we're very excited about that. It's a small school in St. Louis
Mhm.
called Harris Stowe State University,
Mhm, mhm.
and I had no idea it even existed until she went to the Black College Tour Expo in um, at the convention center in LA. And so, which I would recommend everyone going and doing and just learning again, always being inquisitive, always looking and seeking and searching, is really a good way to live life, so that you don't find yourself regretting anything in life as far as like what you didn't get a chance to do. So um yeah, I'm all for the HBCUs, and it's definitely um building of character,
Yes.
which you understand when I say it's a building of character. If I have a few minutes, a small example. Um, my daughter called me yesterday, hysterical, because her classes had been dropped,
Mhm.
and so I told her to breathe.
Mhm.
It was all gonna be all right.
Mhm.
Um, and so, come to find out, there was a balance left over on her account, and so she was like, "I called, I emailed, nobody's answering," and so and I called and I got through, and I was very, like, matter of fact. So just give me the deets. Um, but I told, and she was so frustrated. She was like, "You don't understand. You don't know what it's like." And I was like, no,
Yeah,
actually,
yeah, we do. Yep.
I could tell you the very day, the very year.
Mhm.
It probably happened 2 years in a row where you know, I get one-way tickets. That was my mom's support. She was like, I can get you there, but after that, you're pretty much on your own. So I supported and funded my college years, by myself. And so,
Yeah.
I told her, I was like, no, for me it was worse. Had already got to school, and they told me that I didn't have any classes and I didn't have any money, or not enough money to cover the fees. And I'm sitting there bawling my eyes out in the financial aid office, like, you don't understand. I got a one-way ticket from California. Like, there's no go. I don't have anywhere else to go.
Right, right. Right.
But it's those kind of things that, it's not a cream pie, right? Like, it's not a cakewalk,
Right.
but it builds so much character and independence that it's priceless.
Mhm. I would agree. Oh, I would agree. We have some stories to exchange, and we can
Uh-huh.
get offline. Oh, well, I thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This was phenomenal. I know it is going to help a lot of people, and I'm just really excited for your story to get out there, and also just really excited for the work that we've been doing on the College Reunion Think Tank, which folks
Absolutely.
will be hearing more about as this interview comes out as well. So thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
You're very welcome. It was absolutely my pleasure, and I'm super excited about the college reunion movement. It was a no-brainer when I got the phone call for me to help and support, and I was like, "Oh, absolutely. That's the kind of stuff I like." you know. So I appreciate you and the work that you're doing, and your mission and your passion, um, for letting more people know the
Mhm.
importance of attending the HBCUs.
Mhm.
financially supporting the HBCUs,
Mhm.
um, and just lifting up our people, and um, so that we can together rise.
Yeah, that's it. Together, we're about to change the world. Let's go.
Absolutely. Let's do it.
All right. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're welcome. Have a wonderful day.
Thanks, you too.